Imagine a Tuesday morning where you are one of the top software engineers in the world. You've spent the last decade perfecting the kernel of the most widely used operating system on the planet. You have stock options, a great view of the Redmond campus, and you're currently working on the next big security patch for Windows 11. You open your inbox to clear out some routine Jira tickets, but at the top of the list is a single, company-wide email from Satya Nadella. Within seconds of reading the first paragraph, your badge stops working. Your access to the internal servers is revoked. You realize that you aren't just looking at a layoff. You are looking at the total dissolution of the core Windows engineering team as we know it. 12,000 American engineers, the literal architects of your desktop experience, have been cut in a single stroke. This isn't just another corporate downsizing or a response to a bad fiscal quarter. This is a fundamental pivot in the history of computing. Microsoft is effectively walking away from its identity as a Windows company. Today, we are going to dive into the shocking details of this mass departure, what it means for the security and stability of your computer, and why Satya Nadella just decided that the future of Microsoft doesn't need the people who actually built Windows. The scale of this move is absolutely staggering, and it has sent the tech world into a tailspin. We have seen layoffs before, but never something quite like this targeted strike. By cutting 12,000 engineers specifically from the Windows and Devices division, Microsoft is sending a loud and clear message to its investors and its users. The message is simple. Windows is now a legacy product in maintenance mode. The brain trust that designed the file systems, the driver architectures, and the user interface layers is being replaced. But they aren't being replaced by other engineers. They are being replaced by artificial intelligence and an increasingly outsourced, cloud-centric development model. If you've been wondering why Windows 11 feels like it's drifting further and further away from user needs, this is your answer. The people who cared about the local machine experience are no longer in the building. Let's talk about the logistics of how this happened. Reports from inside Microsoft suggest that the email was sent out with no prior warning to mid-level managers. Entire departments dedicated to hardware compatibility, legacy software support, and local security kernels were simply wiped off the organizational chart. For the 12,000 engineers involved, this is a personal catastrophe. These are some of the brightest minds in the United States, people who have dedicated their lives to the intricacies of x86 architecture and the Windows ecosystem. To see them vanished in a single email reflects a cold, calculated shift in Satya Nadella's vision for Microsoft. Since he took over from Steve Ballmer, Nadella has been the champion of cloud-first, mobile-first. But until now, Windows was still the profitable anchor of the company. That anchor has just been cut loose. The immediate concern for every person listening to this is the stability of their own PC. Who is going to fix the bugs? Who is going to address the zero-day vulnerabilities that appear every week? When you remove the core engineering team, you are essentially leaving the operating system on autopilot. Microsoft's plan appears to be a heavy reliance on their Azure cloud engineers to handle the back end of Windows, while using AI-driven automated testing to find bugs. But any developer will tell you that AI cannot replace the deep institutional knowledge of a senior engineer who knows exactly why a specific line of code was written in 1998 to prevent a system crash in 2024. By losing that human history, Windows becomes a house of cards. One bad update could trigger a global failure that no one left in Redmond knows how to fix. This move also signals the end of the line for American-led software development at Microsoft's core. By shifting these roles, Microsoft is looking toward lower-cost regions and automated systems to handle the heavy lifting. This is a massive blow to the American tech sector. These 12,000 jobs represented the peak of high-end software engineering in the Pacific Northwest. When a company as massive as Microsoft decides it no longer needs a domestic workforce of this scale to maintain its primary product, it sets a chilling precedent for the entire industry. It suggests that the era of the locally installed, locally maintained operating system is being phased out in favor of something much more ephemeral and much less under our control. Why would Satya Nadella do this now? To answer that, you only have to look at the stock price and the obsession with OpenAI. Microsoft has invested billions into artificial intelligence, and they need to show the market where that money involves a return. By cutting the massive salary overhead of 12,000 senior American engineers, Nadella can redirect those funds into the massive server farms required to run Copilot. In his eyes, Windows is just a delivery vehicle for AI services. He doesn't care if the kernel is elegant or if the local file explorer works perfectly. He only cares that you have a window open where you can interact with their cloud-based AI. He is trading the foundation of the house to pay for a fancy new smart home system. The reaction on professional networks like LinkedIn and Blind has been one of pure disbelief. Former employees are sharing stories of being locked out of their laptops while they were in the middle of meetings. Managers were reportedly crying in the hallways as they realized their entire teams had been deleted from the directory. This wasn't a strategic pruning, it was a demolition. It shows a level of corporate ruthlessness that we haven't seen from Microsoft in decades. It takes us back to the early days of the antitrust battles. But this time, the enemy isn't a competitor, it's their own workforce. For the tech enthusiasts and power users, the implications are even more frustrating. We have already seen Windows become increasingly bloated with advertisements, tracking, and unwanted services. Without a strong engineering team to push back against the marketing department, this trend is going to accelerate. The engineers were often the last line of defense, arguing for performance over telemetry and for stability over new monetization features. With those 12,000 voices gone, there is no one left to say no to the executives who want to turn your desktop into a billboard. You are looking at a future where Windows 12 might not even be a local install, but a thin client that streams from the cloud. This brings us to the concept of the Windows as a service. If you don't have engineers building a local product, you are essentially renting a portal to a server. This is the ultimate dream for Microsoft's balance sheet. They don't want you to buy a computer once and use it for 5 years. They want you to pay a monthly subscription just to see your desktop. By dismantling the engineering team, they are making it impossible for Windows to stay a standalone product. They are forcing the transition to the cloud, because that is the only place left where any development is actually happening. It's a forced migration that leaves the user with less choice and less privacy. The impact on the hardware industry will also be massive. Companies like Intel, AMD, and Dell rely on close collaboration with Microsoft's Windows engineers to ensure that new chips and new laptops work perfectly on day one. With those teams gone, the pipeline of innovation is disrupted. Who does Intel call when they have a new instruction set that needs OS-level support? If the answer is an automated AI inbox or a skeleton crew in a different time zone, the pace of PC evolution is going to slow down drastically. We might see a period where hardware stays stagnant because the software is no longer capable of taking advantage of new breakthroughs. We also need to consider the security side of things. Cyber threats are becoming more sophisticated every day. State-sponsored actors are constantly looking for holes in the Windows architecture. Maintaining a secure OS requires a proactive, highly skilled team that understands the deep layers of the system. By firing the people who know the codebase best, Microsoft is essentially creating a massive security debt. They are betting that their current security protocols are enough to hold the line. But in the world of tech, if you aren't moving forward, you are incredibly vulnerable. This could be one of the most risky decisions in the history of cybersecurity. What does this mean for the average user? If you are running Windows at home or for your business, you need to start thinking about a backup plan. This isn't about the OS going away tomorrow, but about the quality of that OS degrading over time. Expect more bugs that stay unpatched for months. Expect less compatibility with niche hardware. Expect a user interface that continues to feel disjointed and unfinished. When the people who built the house are fired, the maintenance of the house is never the same. You might find that your next computer upgrade feels like a downgrade in terms of reliability. The tech community is already speculating about a massive talent drain to competitors. These 12,000 engineers aren't going to stay unemployed for long. Apple, Google, and the various Linux distributions are likely salivating at the chance to hire the people who know Windows better than anyone else. We could see a renaissance in Linux desktop development as former Microsoft engineers bring their expertise to open-source projects. In a strange twist of fate, Satya Nadella's decision to cut his team might actually be the best thing that ever happened to the competition. If Apple manages to snag the top kernel engineers from Microsoft, the performance gap between Mac and PC could become an unbridgeable canyon. There is also a political angle to this. 12,000 high-paying American jobs being erased in one email is going to attract the attention of lawmakers. At a time when there is a massive push for domestic chip manufacturing and technological independence, seeing a flagship American company gut its core domestic engineering force is a bad look. We might see congressional hearings or new labor inquiries into how these massive layoffs are conducted and what they mean for the country's technological edge. Nadella might have saved some money on the balance sheet, but he has invited a storm of scrutiny that could cost the company much more in the long run. The memo itself, according to those who have seen it, was filled with corporate jargon about agility, synergy, and AI-driven efficiency. But between the lines, the message was clear. The human element of Windows development is seen as a liability. In the age of generative AI, the executives seem to believe that the code can write itself, but code without context is dangerous. Code without empathy for the user's experience is frustrating. Microsoft is betting that users are so locked into the ecosystem that they will put up with a subpar, AI-managed operating system because they have no other choice. This is a crossroads for the personal computer. Since the 1980s, the PC has been a symbol of individual empowerment. It was your machine, running your software, under your control. But through the actions of the current Microsoft leadership, we are seeing the end of that era. Your computer is becoming a terminal, and the company that provides the software is treating the people who made it possible as disposable. It is a cynical vision of the future, one where the bottom line is the only metric that matters, even if it means destroying the flagship product that built the company. For those of you listening who are currently in the tech field, this is a wake-up call about the nature of modern employment. Even at the highest levels, even at the most successful companies, you are only as valuable as the next quarter's growth projections. The loyalty that many of these engineers showed to Microsoft was not returned. This realization is going to change the culture of Silicon Valley and Redmond. The era of the company man is finished. We are going to see a much more mercenary workforce, one that knows that their job could disappear in a single email, no matter how vital they think they are. As we look toward the future, the question remains, who is Windows for now? If the engineers are gone, and the focus is entirely on cloud and AI, then Windows is no longer for the user. It is for the advertisers. It is for the data harvesters. It is for the subscription model. The soul of the operating system is being ripped out, and we are left with a hollow shell that looks familiar but behaves like a stranger. Satya Nadella has made his choice. He has chosen the ephemeral buzz of AI over the solid foundation of engineering. Only time will tell if this was a stroke of genius or the beginning of a slow decline into irrelevance. What you can do right now is stay informed. Watch the update logs. Pay attention to how your system performs after the next few Patch Tuesdays. If you start seeing a decline in stability, you know why. Consider diversifying your tech. Don't rely solely on one ecosystem. Learn how to use alternatives. Keep your data in neutral formats, and be ready to move if your computer becomes more of a hindrance than a help. The landscape is shifting, and the giants are moving in directions that don't always align with our best interests. The story of Microsoft is a story of cycles. From the rise under Gates to the stagnation under Ballmer and the cloud pivot under Nadella, but this latest chapter feels different. It feels like a company that is losing its passion for the product that made it a household name. When you fire 12,000 people who are the heart and soul of that product, you aren't just changing a team. You are changing your DNA. Windows will never be the same after this. The American engineer, once the hero of the digital age, is being pushed aside for an algorithm. It is a moment of profound change, and we are all going to have to deal with the consequences on our own desktops. Every time you hear your computer fan spin up or see that spinning blue circle, think about those 12,000 people. They were the ones who knew how to make it stop. They were the ones who knew how to optimize the code to save your battery or protect your files. Now that expertise is gone, scattered to the wind by an automated email. The future of your computer is now in the hands of the very AI that is being used to replace its creators. It is a brave new world, but it is one that feels a little bit colder and a little bit more uncertain. As we continue to track this story, we'll look for signs of where those engineers end up and how Microsoft tries to spin the inevitable bugs that will follow this mass departure. The tech world moves fast, but some things take time to break. The cracks in Windows might not show today or even next month, but by this time next year, the absence of those 12,000 minds will be felt by every single person who clicks that start button. Stay vigilant, keep your backups ready, and remember that in the world of big tech, you are often just one email away from a completely different reality. The era of the engineer is being challenged, and the outcome will define the next 50 years of our lives. Microsoft's pivot to AI is essentially a gamble that the world wants a computer that thinks for them, rather than a computer that works for them. By gutting the Windows team, they are doubling down on the idea that the average person doesn't care about the plumbing of their OS as long as the faucet has an AI logo on it. But plumbing matters. Anyone who has lived through a system crash during a vital project knows that plumbing is everything. We are about to find out just how much Microsoft has forgotten about the importance of those fundamental layers. The fallout from this single email involves more than just 12,000 jobs. It involves the trust of over 1 billion users. And trust, once broken by a single click of the send button, is nearly impossible to code back into existence. Keep your eyes on your desktop and watch for the signs. The transformation of Windows has officially entered its most dangerous phase.